Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, Nelson's Homes, excuse me. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, if you learned something new. And of course, share with your friends or family if you again learned something new and find this valuable. Now, let's go ahead and dive on in. Today's video will be part 6 on real estate language 101. So in previous videos, I believe we've already covered over 20 key terms so far. Again, this is part 6. So today, I believe I have another 5 terms for you guys today. So let's go ahead and dive on in here. Sort of continuing again on this 101 series will be about basically terms that most first-time home buyers will come across during that first transaction, especially during this current market conditions that we're facing, which is the current seller's market here in the DMV area to be specific. So the first key term that we will be covering today is an offer. So an offer is essentially what you are presenting to the seller that you are willing to pay for this property, the specific property that you're making the written offer on, as well as what conveys with this property, what goes or does not go with the sale of the property, the terms of the offer. So it could be however many days it takes to settle on this property, the type of financing, whether it's a portion cash, a portion finance, or all financed or all cash, which means that you won't even need a lender involved in the preparing of the offer, as well as the contingencies of the offer. So if X, Y, and Z happen, then the sale will go through. If X, Y, and Z does not occur, then as a buyer, you may have the option to possibly back out. But of course, you would have to cover this stuff with your real estate agent when preparing and writing the offer, as well as your lender, of course, if there is a lender involved in the transaction. So once you have presented this offer to the seller has received the offer, the seller has the option to either accept, counter, or reject, at which point you, the buyer, if accepted, you move on to the next step. If rejected, you can either continue your search with different properties, or you may be able to write another offer. Just depends on the type of market. In this market, you may not be able to write another offer because most likely they rejected, as they may have received a much better offer, and they're moving forward with somebody else in a different buyer, different direction. Or again, they may counter, which at that point, if the seller counters an offer to you, the property is basically yours, but you have the option to accept that counter or counter back, at which the seller does not have to, again, they don't have to accept. They can move on with a different buyer if you do not accept that counter. So that is what an offer is. That is term 1. Term 2 for today is, or for this video, is offer price. So offer price is the price that you, the buyer, are willing to pay for this property, or that you are offering basically the seller to pay for this property. Now, this is the offer price. This is not binding you to that specific price towards the end of the sale. Does not mean that that price will stay the same. It could stay the same, and it could be a very smooth transaction, but the offer price is what you're willing to pay for it. Again, it could be rejected, it could be countered, or it could be accepted. So that is what the offer price is. This is the actual number that is written when preparing the offer, okay? And it does not have to be the same as the list price. So just to clarify what the list price is, the list price is the price that the listing agent or the seller decided the property was going to be listed at. So it is on the market at $399, for example, or a property is on the market for $399K. $399 is the list price, and you come along and make an offer at $405. So your offer price is $405,000 and list price is $399K. So you're coming in at $6K over list price. that is a little bit of a difference. I hope that clarifies on what offer is and what offer price is. Okay, the next term is disclosures, term 3. So disclosures are when a seller is wanting to sell a property, the state and their local counties are require that the seller provides disclosure statements over to the buyer before purchasing the home. Now, disclosures are basically material fact on the property and maybe its local county jurisdiction that, again, all buyers need to know when purchasing a home. That way they make sure that they're making the best educated decision before going through with the purchase of a home. So again, if the seller does not provide this to the buyer, they may be held liable for not telling them this material fact information on that specific property. This material fact information could be bad things or maybe even good things. So for example, they have to disclose if it is in a flood zone. They have to disclose if the seller lived in the property and they know of any leaks, of any water penetration, of any damage to the roof, termite, things like that. They have to disclose this information if they know of it, of course, and provide that over to the buyer before purchasing a home. So there are some exemptions to this disclosure statement and disclosures, but of course you can always review this stuff when they come along with your real estate agent or realtor. So that is term 3, which is disclosures. Again, last thing I wanted to say about disclosures is in order to write an offer, you do need disclosures on that specific property. So that way, as a buyer, before preparing this offer, you review that and make sure that you are fine with writing an offer before actually writing that offer, based on the information on that property so far. All right, so the next term here today is, which is term 4, escalation clause. Escalation clause is a clause on an offer that guarantees that the price that you're currently offering may be adjusted depending on if a factor has been initiated by some other party. So just to clarify what that means a little bit in an example. For example, you may offer a specific price to a seller with an escalation clause. Now, if somebody comes in, another potential buyer comes in and offers a higher price than what you are offering, your escalation clause may be triggered in order to one-up that potential buyer. Depending on how you want to one-up them, could be $1,000, could be $5,000, could be $2,000. It all depends on when you are writing this escalation clause, what you want to do. So in theory, this escalation clause seems very simple, but of course, when using the actual practice, there are a lot of very small details that this escalation clause has. But of course, you can always review this with your realtor or real estate agent when preparing an offer. Typically, you see this a lot during a seller's market, which is what we are currently facing right now. So there have been a lot of escalation clause in a lot of deals going on here in the DMV area. So that is term 4. Finally, the last term here for this video is purchase price. This is term 5. Purchase price is the price that once, let's say for example, you as a buyer have written an offer and you have an offer price and you have an escalation clause, and finally an escalation clause has been triggered, but the seller goes and accepts your offer and you guys are under contract for this new specific price. Again, buyer and seller agreed upon this new specific price. Based on that, you guys are under contract, which means you're in the under contract phase. That specific price, is called the purchase price. And this price could still change depending on the contingencies that may be on the contract and depending on negotiations. So there may be some negotiations on home inspection, a credit, or maybe even appraisal. So if the appraisal may come back at a higher price than what you guys agreed upon, or if the appraisal comes back at a lower price than what you guys agreed upon, again, negotiations could take place, and eventually that purchase price that you guys went under contract for could eventually end up being something else. But again, that stuff happens during the course of a transaction, so you will be hopefully with a great realtor who can guide you through these steps and these negotiations. We went through offer price, disclosures, escalation clause, and finally purchase price. So if you guys have any questions on any of these terms, want more clarification, feel free to comment below. If you learned something new, hit the thumbs up on this video, and of course share with your friends and family, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Follow me on Instagram at Nelson's Homes. Thanks again for watching, you guys, and I have more videos coming up. This was just part 6. Next one is part 7. Thanks.